Ваше превосходительство, для меня большая честь поприветствовать вас и вашу делегацию на 25-й сессии Межправительственной Российско-Индийской комиссии по торговому, экономическому, научно-техническому и культурному сотрудничеству. Ваше превосходительство, мы координирующий механизм для продвижения экономического и торгового сотрудничества в первую очередь. И наши переговоры сегодня таким образом станут серьезным вкладом в достижение успехов стратегического партнерства. Вчера Ваше превосходительство, премьер-министр Моди принял вас, поделился с вами своими соображениями, а также дал комментарии по разным вопросам, которые входят в нашу повестку сегодня. Его комментарии отразили обсуждение на саммите в июле между нашими лидерами, а также встречи между нашими лидерами в октябре в Казани. Мы также поделились нашим опытом по участию в бизнес-форуме «Россия и Индия» в Мумбаи вчера. Вы сами могли увидеть особый интерес промышленности Индии к расширению нашей торговли и расширению наших сотрудничеств. Наше обсуждение сегодня как в двустороннем формате, так и в глобальном сотрудничестве. В все более многостороннем мире наши отношения имеют особый резонанс. Мы полностью приветствуем и поддерживаем растущий интерес России к рассмотрению экономических возможностей в Индии. Наши экономики не только дополняют друг друга, но они пользуются доверием.
The growth in the bilateral trade, now estimated at $66 billion, has been impressive. Our goal is that it needs to be more balanced, and that will require addressing current constraints and undertaking greater facilitative efforts. Making it easier to do trade should be accompanied by progress in the negotiations on the India-Eurasian Economic Union, FTA. And India, that has many decades of 8% growth, at least, ahead of it, obviously values a reliable partner when it comes to resources, technology, and best practices. We note Russia's growing interest in our Make in India program and would encourage joint ventures and other forms of collaboration. There have been challenges to trade, especially in regard to payments and logistics. Perceptible progress has been made in that regard, but there is still some work to be done. Our joint endeavors in regard to connectivity, such as the International North-South Transport Corridor, the Chennai-Vladivostok Corridor, and the Northern Sea Route, must go forward. We will also be discussing cooperation critical for our food, energy, and health security. Russia has emerged as a major source of fertilizers for us. Its supply of crude oil, coal, and uranium are indeed important. Similarly, India's pharmaceutical industry has emerged as an affordable and reliable source for Russia. Looking ahead, we are also exploring the mobility of talent and skills. Customizing them for the Russian market has to be a shared enterprise. Excellency, I'm confident that we will achieve the trade target of $100 billion by 2030, well before that. In parallel, we will also take our partnership forward through the program of economic cooperation till 2030 that we hope to finalize soon. With those words, Excellency, I invite you to make your opening remarks.
Уважаемые коллеги, хотел бы искренне приветствовать всех участников юбилейного 25-го заседания нашей межправительственной комиссии. За долгие годы такой формат диалога доказал свою эффективность и стал ключевым механизмом развития взаимодействия по широкому спектру направлений. Фундаментом для этого служат прочные, проверенные временем узы дружбы между Россией и Индией. Отношения особо привилегированного стратегического партнерства подчеркивает регулярный характер двусторонних контактов, в том числе на высшем уровне. В текущем году лидеры наших стран дважды, как вы уже упомянули, встречались очно. Также мы продолжаем тесно сотрудничать на площадках других международных организаций. Прежде всего, это ООН и ШОС. В этой работе наше государство выступает источником позитивной созидательной силы. Играют важную роль в построении нового миропорядка, основанного на многополярности. Что касается непосредственно повестки дня нашей межправкомиссии, центральное место в ней занимают торгово-экономические связи. Прошедший вчера в Мумбаи бизнес-форум подтвердил растущий интерес предпринимательских кругов обеих стран к расширению взаимовыгодной кооперации. Предлагаю продолжить практику совмещения подобных деловых мероприятий с заседаниями наших комиссий. Также считаю необходимым всемирно поощрять участие российских и индийских
Encourage participation of Russian and Indian companies in large congress and exhibition events taking place in our countries, which would allow to rhythmically expand the growth rates of trade turnover in a cadenced fashion. Here I would like to point out the stably positive dynamics. And over the last 5 years, trade turnover of our country has grown more than fivefold. And India is now the second country among all the foreign economic partners of Russia. The positive tendency is maintained this year as well. Over the first 8 months, the trade turnover has grown by 9% as compared to last year. It's important that this growth is accompanied by the diversified structure of mutual trade, along with traditional supplies of energy sources and mineral fertilizers. We've grown food exports, first of all, of sunflower and soybean oil. On our part, Russia, aside from procurement of products of agro-industrial complex, continues to import from India industrial equipment, components, pharmaceutical drugs, and substances. Tasks on further expansion of product range, as well as shortening the trade imbalance, will be enshrined in Program for the Development of Promising Areas of Russian-Indian Economic Cooperation till 2030. Among other things, we confirm our strong commitment on signing the free trade agreement between the EEU and India, as well as bilateral agreement on services and investments. This fully meets the needs of our business community. We keep in check the interbank cooperation and settlements. Share of local and alternative currencies keeps growing in bilateral trade. It is now approaching 90%. We deem it especially necessary to continue our work on expanding correspondent relations between Russian and Indian banks. It's of no less importance to continue our efforts in transportation. We're interested in expanding direct air traffic between our countries. Right now, flights are operated solely by the Russian Airlines Aeroflot, conducting 12 regular flights per week from Moscow and Yekaterinburg to Delhi and Goa. We hope to see more frequent flights development of the route network, as well as the resumption of flights by Indian air carriers. We consider India as a crucial partner on strategic projects in international logistics. And by that, we first of all mean the Northern Sea Route and the North-South Corridor. The introduction of new routes, including container routes, which would significantly lower transportation costs and economic operators. There is a dynamic development of a cooperation in energy. We have increased shipments of popular fuels, including crude oil and oil products. Opportunities for further increase in trade turnover are interlinked with LNG shipments of thermal and coking coal. Russian companies also dispose of necessary competences in order to participate in creating objects of power generation, from providing engineering services to providing modern equipment. We're interested in expanding complex cooperation in the nuclear field, including the successful results of realizing the project of Kudankulam NPP. We suggest we join our efforts in areas that are especially important in order to achieve a technological sovereignty. Here we mean promising cooperations in such areas as engine building and microelectronics. We attach great importance to developing cooperation in exploration of outer space. We see opportunities for expanding supplies of equipment and components to supply Indian crewed orbital spacecraft Gaganyaan. At the advanced stages are already the projects in the satellite navigation. Mutually beneficial area of cooperation is the appliance of Russian competencies and technologies in railway machine building. We already have experience in supply and assembly of track equipment in India. We're conducting work on creating joint production of high-speed electric trains for Indian railways within the initiative Make in India. Among priority areas, there is chemical industry and metallurgy. In these areas, there is a range of successful cooperation projects. We have reciprocal deliveries of raw materials and equipment. Another promising area of cooperation is digital technology. Russian and Indian IT companies are working together in the area of telecommunications, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and smart city technologies. Just as important on the agenda for the Intergovernmental Commission is the cooperation in humanitarian area. One of priority areas is the higher education. Among universities of Russia and India, we've already signed over 600 bilateral agreements of cooperation. In our country, around 28,000 Indian students are studying at Russian universities, and around half of those are getting medical professions. To take further steps in this area, we need to simplify the procedures of mutual recognition of diplomas and academic degrees. We expect to step up the work on subsequent agreements. We're also discussing the issue of preparing Indian workforce on the basis of Russian secondary vocational training programs, with the perspective of their further employment at the Russian companies. Another important element of bringing our peoples closer together is the development of the cultural dialogue. Here, we see a positive tendency. There is an active cooperation among leading Russian and Indian libraries and museums. In 8 Russian cities, last years, there has been the largest festival of Indian culture, and recently, in October, an Indian state Majorat.
ряду шоу
They had an opening night of the ice show, the love story of Scheherazade, with the participation of leaders of world ice skating, and the rich
стран
cultural and historic heritage of both our countries is an important prerequisite for the development of tourist exchanges.
положительную динамику
Despite clearly positive dynamic, the tourist traffic has not reached the numbers before the COVID, and we believe it's reasonable to step up our cooperation in this area and create a separate working group within the framework of a commission. Distinguished colleagues, let me reconfirm our commitment to develop dialogue across all partnership areas.
ценим многогранный характер
We
российско-индийских
highly appreciate the multidimensional nature of Russian-Indian relations and are ready to make the necessary efforts to achieve all the goals. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Excellency. We'll now just give a few minutes for the press to
Sir, no, Salaga.